And then today we will discuss about philosophy and concept of development communication. Till now we have discussed about what is development, and we try to understand different perspective of development in sociological perspective, in capitalistic perspective, even in mixed economy kind of perspective which India adopted after independence. And we also know now that what is development communication and why it is needed, and we have understood that how it started after Second World War, and after that we kept changing our goal, we kept changing our focus area, and till now we have been using this strategy to bring change in our society. Uh, so, I mean, now you know various aspects of development and communication. So, very much necessary to know the philosophy and concept of development communication. You know, whatever we do, whatever strategy we adopt, there is always a philosophy behind that, and there is always a conceptual framework while we accept one thing and while we decide to walk on that path. So let us understand what is the philosophy behind development communication. So there are three main ideas which define the philosophy of development communication, right? First is that it should be purposive communication. What is communication? I mean, communication is simple interaction between two people, and it may be without purpose also. So many times we don't have any purpose while we're talking to our friends or while we're talking about our family members. There is no purpose. But when there is a purpose, then certainly it will be a development communication. So if you want to do development communication, you must have a purpose in your mind, what you want to achieve. Suppose I am telling something to you, I am asking you, suppose take the example of the assignment I gave to you last week, and I wanted you people to open that document only and write your assignment there and submit it there only. There is a purpose. I want you people to learn how to submit assignment on Google Classroom platform. But even after that, it failed because there are certain technical problems. Some people are not able to do that on mobile phones. I don't know what kind of problem it is. If I would be there, and if I would be in university and university would be open, then certainly I would have helped the people to how to do the assignment as I am asking you. So if there is a purpose, then certainly that communication will be termed as development communication, right? And purpose, obviously, it should be positive purpose. If I am going to a village and I want the village people to bring in some new habit, change certain attitude for their benefits, if my purpose is this, then certainly it will be a development communication. But if my purpose is to get some photographs, popularize it on media, get name and fame, so if your purpose is wrong, then, and if your purpose is, so forget about wrong and right, if your purpose is not related to the development of the community, then this should not be a development communication. The first philosophy, first main idea of development communication is that it should be purposive communication. And this is what it is written here, that in the development context, a tactic positive value is attached. to what one communicates about, which shall motivate the people for social change, positive value. What I was telling you right now, that there must be some positivity in your communication, and there must be a purpose. It should not be purposeless, right? This is the first idea of development communication. Second is pragmatic. Pragmatic means that communication must be based on pragmatic thinking. Means it should be not a theoretical kind of idea, not utopian kind of viewpoint. It must be a practical kind of thing. The thing you are suggesting must be achievable or must be adoptable, right? Sometimes we give some utopian ideas to people who are suffering from some problems, and that might not help. Take the example of this corona pandemic. There are people who believe that life and death is a God wish, right? So if you have to die, no one can save you. So there is no use of using all these masks and all these things. This kind of idea cannot be pragmatic, right? Give the idea which is practical, right? It should not be. Sometimes we say that suppose something happened to a family, suppose there is a flood in a rural area or in a village or anywhere, and you say that no, I mean flood is a natural disaster, and government cannot do anything. There are ministers, there are people who used to say such kind of things. This kind of idea is not pragmatic, right? No one saying that you stop rain, no one can stop it, but at least the government must be aware of the coming disaster. Government must be prepared to deal with that disaster. Government must have the infrastructure to give the people food and shelter. Those who are suffering from that disaster. So the idea should be pragmatic. So there are two things. First is it should be purposive communication. Second is it should be pragmatic thinking. It should not be utopian kind of idea or theoretical kind of idea. It must be practical. Third is goal oriented. What is your goal? The ultimate goal of the development communication is a higher quality of life for the people of society by social and political change. What is your goal? This is also important. Your goal should be to improve the condition of people, improve the quality of life, right? And that's why I always say that development communication is based on some standard set by international institutions or by your own government. So you have to work upon that you should bring quality of life. You should improve quality of life. It is not like that people living in poor condition and they should feel happy. We see such kind of things. That no, poor people are more happy than us. It's okay, they might be happy, but it does not mean that they don't need development communication. Because if in bad condition they feel happy, then we have to change their attitude. Because it is not about an individual, it is about the whole community, it is about the coming generation, right? If there are people who don't want to do anything, who don't want to do work, they want to be at home and do all kind of bad things in the society, and they may be happy, but we cannot promote such kind of lifestyle. So ultimate goal is to improve the quality of life. And how can we do this? By bringing social and political change. We should not view the goal of development communication purely in economic terms. You know, we have already discussed it, The development is not economic growth only, right? It is the social, political, cultural development, moral values that make a person's life whole, and that enable a person to attain his or her full potential, right? So we have to take care of all these kind of development. It should not be an economic development. It should be a social development, political development, cultural development, and they must have certain moral values which make a person a life whole, right? So this kind of goal. So there are three main ideas behind the philosophy of development communication. First is that it should be a purposive communication. Second is that it should be pragmatic, and third, it should be goal oriented. Concept of development communication. After understanding philosophy of development communication, now let's try to understand concept of development communication. The concept of development communication, but broadly there are three main things which are highlighted here: communication, development, and development support communication. These are three main factors which describe the concept of development communication. So first is communication, sharing of information through technical channels or medium, right? And sharing of information means the necessary information, critical information which are required for development. This is not a kind of communication which is not related to development, right? So there must be communication and sharing of critical information and sharing of necessary information, required information to the community. Second, development, improved and better quality of life of every citizen. This should be our goal. And third is development support communication. It means it implies the methodical usage of communication for development goals. So the methodical means that it is not, if you are doing development support communication, there is a scientific way of doing that, and which we discussed during the discussion of definition given by Nora Duberl, and who says that it is an art and a science. Development communication is an art and science. So similarly, when you are doing development support communication, so there are methodical uses. You have to follow certain guidelines, you have to follow certain steps to do development support communication. It means you will have to identify the problem, you will have to frame the messages, you have to pick the channel, then you have to provide the information. After that, you will have to get the feedback, and then after communication, you will have to see the effect also. And then if you are seeing good effect, then you will continue with that strategy. If it is not working, then certainly you will have to change the strategy. So that's why there is a scientific method. That's why it is said here that there are methodical usage of communication. When you use communication as a method to achieve development goals, then it is developed. This is the concept of development communication, which is based on three elements, that is communication, development, and development support communication. So now this is the question for you, that are these definitions able to provide a central framework for having an in-depth understanding of the applicability of development communication? Do you feel that, okay, we know the definitions and now we understand what is development communication, and now we can apply these strategies to bring development in our society? So, I mean, we see the scenario of developing nations, including India. We need a much realistic and practical approach of development paradigm for overall growth. Why we need overall growth? Because after Second World War, we adopted a certain policy of development that was mixed economy, and in between that, so many 5-year plan came with some special emphasis, And even after that, in 1991, we had to adopt new economic policy, which was based on globalization, liberalization, and privatization. And we have already discussed that how after 1970, World Bank started putting emphasis on privatization. And in 1990, due to a bad condition, bad economic condition, we had to adopt this globalization, privatization, and liberalization, right? So even after 1991 till 2020, our economic problems are there. We have not come out from all those problems which were during the independence. And that's why I'm saying that, because even now, when whole world is based on service sector and industrial sector or secondary sector, there are three sectors economics people may know, that primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. And the whole Western economy is now based on tertiary sector, in which service sector comes. Majority of population are in service sector, and from there the percentage of tertiary sector in GDP is more than primary and secondary sector. And secondary sector, manufacturing unit, industry, all these kind of things come. And primary sector, agriculture, fishery, all these kind of things come under primary sector. So even after we adopted capitalistic model of development after independence, but till now our 60% population is based on agriculture only. And it is not yielding much. Agriculture sector, 60% population is based on agriculture, but the percentage, the contribution of agriculture sector in GDP is less. What it means? It means that there are a lot of people who are underemployed. We had discussed it. They feel that they are employed because they have land, they can work on land, but they are underemployed. They are not needed there. The thing which can be done by 5 people, there are 15 people there for that work. So this is kind of underemployment, right? So that's why it is said that the present scenario shows that we have to have a realistic and practical approach of development paradigm for overall growth. We have this is the first thing, and then perspective and views on development change from time to time. Focus also changed time to time, as we discussed earlier, that how after Second World War focus was on West. After that, it came on third world country. After that empowerment became focus, and after that now equality, freedom, and all these things became important. So we kept changing the focus area of development, and that's why after going through these phases, in 2020, developing nations, including India, have to think much realistically to find solution of their problems, right? Let us see that which kind of development communication approaches were adopted during these phases. After Second World War, development meant what it was for developing nations. Whole world start believing that development means what it is for developing nations, newly independent countries. And what was the development for newly independent countries? Development was to raise the growth rate. It means GDP. Raise the per capita income. It means individuals' income, right? Industrial development, technological development, all these kind of things were important for developing nations. And that's why after Second World War, these ideas of development became focal point of development. So that's why these are certain points. Focus was on industrial revolution. Objective of development was identified as a change in the larger society, right? It means there must be a change in the society, and that change should be obviously as per the standards set by the Western countries, standards set by modernization theory, right? We have already discussed it. Third point is empower the individuals to take control over their own lives and decisions. How society will become developed? You have to empower the individuals, right? And individuals should be able to take control over their own lives, and they should decide. They must be changed into decision makers so that they can change their lives, and if they can change their lives, then certainly society will change. No, I mean this kind of approach were there, and that's why role of development communication was to promote modernization theory. So at that time you will find that the development communication means that promote modernization theory. After that, after 1970, there was a famous communication theorist, Rogers, and in 1976 he tried to redefine development, and he said that it should be participatory. If you bring participation in society, then it will bring development, right? Material advancement to fulfill the needs of the larger population. Second idea which was given by Rogers, that material advancement is needed so that you can fulfill the needs of larger population, right? And that's why here role of development communication is to promote participation within and between the society. It means within society there must be participation, and between societies, the one society to another society, this kind of participation is needed. So after 1970, what happened? That focus was on participation, and that's why development communication started focusing on promoting participation within the society, right? And even after all these phases, development is a multidimensional concept. If we are talking about development communication, the concept of development communication, we must understand that the concept of development itself is a multidimensional. See, for sociologists, it is a differentiation of modern society. It means the differences brought in by modern societies, and they try to understand this modern society with conventional, and then try to say that how modern societies brought change in the society. For psychologists, it is a kind of personality centric. They say that if people is self-dependent, self-confident, self-worth, then it is development. For communication experts, development means ability to acquire more knowledge and skills. If you acquire more knowledge and you are skillful, and if media is helping you in getting that, then you are developed. Political scientists believe that development as a capacity to increase political awareness. You must be politically aware. What is wrong, what is right, and which kind of politics is going on right now, right? And you must be politically aware and facilitate political change and situation. So if it is happening, if political change is in right direction, if situation is changing towards positivity, then it is development. So I mean, you will see that for every stream and for every different type of people, development, the concept of development is different. But even after all that, all these definitions differ, but it aims towards the betterment of society, right? If people will politically aware, if people start attaining more knowledge and skills, if people are getting self-confident, self-dependent, right? If society is changing towards modern societies, if we try to see all these in totality, we must understand that all these definitions, all these differences aims towards the betterment of society, right? Its environment, enhanced ability of people to understand, and overall improving the existing living conditions. So this is what all these concepts says. Then certainly development communication should also be doing the same thing, right? Development communicator should try to communicate the thing which will make society more better than previous one. The environment should become more friendly. It should enhance the ability of people, and it should help in improving the living condition of people. So that's why development communicators should focus also on betterment of the society. So after going through all this, you will find that what is development emerging concept after going through all these different concept of development, right, and the overall different phases of development, right, and keeping the philosophy of development communication in mind, right. What concept emerges of development communication, that is that it is not merely the transfer of facts and figures. If as a development communicator, if you are transferring facts and figures, it is not development communication, but it is basically an ongoing interactive process, right? And in this interactive process, you keep changing your role. Sometimes you become sender, and sometimes you become receiver. Sometimes your receiver becomes sender, and they become again receiver. So this kind of dynamic process of the communication should keep going on, and then only you will be able to bring participation among people. Then people will start taking interest in your communication, and it will help in bringing change. So development communication is not only, it must have a goal. If you are transferring facts and figures, no, it is ultimately there must be a kind of conscience, social conscience. We have discussed it. You must have human in your mind, how to improve the condition of human beings. It must be your mind, and keep the philosophy of development communication in mind, that it should be goal oriented, it should be pragmatic, and it should be purposive. So if these philosophies are in your mind, then certainly transferring facts and figures will not help, right? You will have to make it interactive, you will have to make it dynamic, right? Now, second point, in the process of communication, there is no fixed sender or receiver. It is dynamic and it keeps on changing, as I told you. And this process of communication indicates freedom of expression and equality. What it says that if you believe in this dynamic process, if you believe that you keep changing your role, then certainly it talks about freedom of expression. If you let people express their opinion, right, on equality basis, no one is big, no one is small. In society, everyone is equal. By keeping these things in mind, if you will let them speak, let them share their ideas, and then only you will be able to understand their problem, and then only together you may be able to find the solution. So freedom of expression and equality becomes key of development communication, right? So these are certain points under concept of development communication. Now, concluding points are that development communication is briefly the effective application of communication models for instigating development in a society, right? There are various communication models which we will discussing very soon, right? So what is development communication? Now you know philosophy, now you have concept, now you have to apply those communication models to how to instigate development in the society. Second is that development communication is mainly oriented towards human development, right? Now, if you go to sustainable development goals, it has changed. Now, not only humans are in center, basically our planet is in center. That's why in sustainable development goals, you will find that it talks about life on earth, life below water. It talks about for clean environment. Various other things are also included in development, but all these things are in center only because we want better human lives. We want betterment of human condition, because if our planet will be in danger, then humans will be in danger. So certainly the whole communication is done keeping humans in center. Third point is development communication means the proper use of principles and exchange of ideas for attaining the desired development objectives. Right? There are certain principles, ideas. You have to adopt those principles, and you have to exchange the ideas, and certain objectives should be there, and you should attain those objectives. So development communication is not only the transmission of problem solving information, but it is about how situation can be made better for human beings with the available resources and services. So many times people feel that yes, there are certain problem in villages, and uh, we go there and we find solution, we give them, our work is done. No, this is development communication, is not problem solving information. You are giving information how to solve their problem, but you are not telling them how to use the available resources, right, to solve that problem, to enhance the situation, right? For example, you go to village, you find that farmers are having a very low yield from their fields, right? You say ki, adopt genetic GM crops, right? Genetically modified crops, and genetically modified seeds, right? You are giving them solution, right? This information is critical. This information is necessary for them, and if they adopt GM crops, then certainly their yield will be more, their yield will increase. But you are not understanding that whether they are able to use those GM crops or not, whether the resources allow them to have these kind of products in their fields or not. So this is what whole development communication process is. So this is what I had to say. Thank you. Now if you have any question, you can ask me.